Hey everybody, it's Sam with Wrestling Overtime, and we are doing our Raves and Rants review of WWE Smackdown at the Performance Center on May 1st, 2020. And we open up, of course, thankfully, with Corey Graves and Michael Cole. And they are back, and I am definitely hoping that they are here to stay. I understand that Corey had some issues getting caught up northeast, and I know that his kids are up there and everything, but I hope that he gets to stay just a little while in Florida and can continue to announce SmackDown, or that they can at least maybe work up some kind of at-home announcing thing like they're doing with Beth Phoenix and Morrow, because I miss him and I miss his heel commentary, but I also miss he kind of jazzes up Michael Cole, and so I was excited to see them. And then, of course, Daniel Bryan's music hits, and he comes out kind of talking about this stage of his career. And for some reason, when I was watching this on DVR, I was like, whoa, that was like a little bit of a red flag, because of all of the rumors that have recently started swirling in the dirt sheets and a lot of different wrestling sites and on the internet about how, Brie Bella is pregnant with their second child. We found that out earlier, and of course that's playing out in Total Bellas. But Daniel Bryan has always wanted a family, has really wanted stability. And with his second child, it, of course, makes us all wonder, as we've kind of gotten to know him through interviews and articles and not necessarily his character on TV, but how he was on Total Divas and Total Bellas, and him just being very honest. But I think the big way that I personally feel connected and feel like I have gotten to know maybe the real Bryan is through the Bellas podcast, and Brie actually being real and talking about things. And several of you heard a previous episode that I did about where's Tessa Blanchard going to go. Well, when I was trying to research her contract status, of course, there are sites out there that have the contract statuses that they can figure out of different players. And one of them that I kept kind of glancing at and seeing was Daniel Bryan. His runs out this summer also. It is late in the summer. I want to say August, September. It's not really known the exact date. I never saw an exact date, like, August 14th or something like that. But people are guessing that it's somewhere August, September. So, number one, this makes me think they're not going to give Daniel Bryan Money in the Bank. If he does or accidentally would win it, he is going to be a failed cash-in, because they're not going to give the championship to someone they think there's a possibility of leaving. Now, 5 years ago, did they think Daniel Bryan was leaving? No, of course not. In this day and age, who knows? Is WWE willing to give him what we call a Brock Lesnar type contract? I mean, when you think about it, Daniel Bryan has put down roots in Phoenix, Arizona. That is not anywhere near the Performance Center. Right now, he's coming in and doing a certain number of shows. he is kind of quarantining and then seeing his family. After the baby's born, does anybody realistically think that he wants to continue to do that and miss gaps of his child's life? Does anyone really think that he wants to miss big gaps, period? Because you got to remember, when his daughter Birdie was born, Brie was trying to make a comeback. Therefore, Birdie was actually traveling with them. They did the whole Miz and Maurice storyline. And Birdie was actually traveling with them. We got to see that, like I said, on Total Divas and Total Bellas. And, of course, her mother was helping, and she had, a nanny helping and things like that. But Birdie and Brie were actually on the road with him. However, since Brie has retired and made her home in Phoenix, Nikki Bella has now retired, lives next door, and is having a baby. They have now started. I know a lot of you are going to snicker, but they've kind of started a business empire. They've got 3 different companies now. Their wine company, from everything that I have been able to find and dig around on, and it's not coming from them. I mean, when you look at wine sites and places in California, with it being such a young company and them selling out as much and as quick as they are doing, they're doing excellent as far as their wine business. Other businesses, I'll just be honest with you, I haven't really researched. But the point I'm trying to make is, with both of them retired, living side by side, running 3 different companies, I don't know how willing Brie is going to be with a second child that she wasn't even sure she wanted, to be traveling to 250, 300 nights around the United States if we go back to the old way of doing wrestling. Is she willing to take, I'm going to guess Birdie is, 3, and then a newborn baby? Is in this time with COVID running rampant, is she willing to travel back and forth to Florida with Daniel Bryan so that he can continue wrestling? I'm not sure. And if we do go back to the old normal of wrestling where they wrestle 200 to 300 nights a week all over the United States, and every wrestler has talked about how hard travel is she going to be willing to go with him? And if she decides, no, I'm not going with you, I'm not taking a 3-year-old and a newborn out on the road with you, I have 3 companies to run, does he want to do 200, 250, 300 nights a year away from his family, away from his 2 young kids? Well, I can tell you from what I know about Daniel Bryan, and no, I do not know him personally, I think the answer is no. I think the answer is, when he said this in the ring, at this stage in my career, I think he was sending a message, whether he meant to or not, that he's going to be on a Brock Lesnar schedule if he's going to be in the WWE. And if he's not going to be in the WWE, where is he going to be? AEW, of course, is going to want him. And they have been very open and honest with people. Right now, the contract says fulfill AEW, requests, and after that, your time is yours. So, would Daniel Bryan go for traveling to Jacksonville on Tuesday, doing some promotion, wrestling Tuesday or Wednesday night in Jacksonville and leaving Jacksonville the very next morning to go home to his kids and stay there until the following Tuesday where he goes to some other city and does promotion? Well, I think that's a no-brainer. Will Ring of Honor say, hey, we're going to tape a week's or a month's worth of shows in a week, and then you got the next 3 weeks off? Is he going to take that? Well, yeah. Well, when I sit down and think about that, it just makes me sad. Did I like Daniel Bryan in Ring of Honor? Yes! I went back and watched some of his stuff. I loved him in Ring of Honor. I liked him working in the WWE. But you think about it, he has had some bad blood in the past with WWE as far as how they've treated him and not giving him a chance until the crowd got behind him and making him do some stupid stuff and not listening to him creatively and not realizing how good of a wrestler he was and how passionate he was about wrestling and how he spent a year and a half of his life running around to doctors trying to get medically cleared so he could go back to wrestling. And WWE kept not wanting to clear him. And they made him the general manager, but not really letting him become a part of creative, not letting him become a coach, not keeping him in the family. When Daniel Bryan sits down, and when he talks to Brie, and they discuss their family future plans, is this stage that he keeps talking about of his career, is it the end of his WWE career? I don't know. We're going to be talking about it in future episodes, though. But then he starts, immediately talking about Money in the Bank at WWE headquarters and how no one can prepare for this. It doesn't matter whether you've been in Money in the Bank before. This is a totally different ballgame. He won 9 years ago and then ended up cashing in on the big show. And how, that was life-changing for him. But he can't rely on that experience because this time, they're going from the bottom top. And like he said, he doesn't know the rules. Is he allowed to take an elevator? I brought that up before. Do you have to go up the stairs? Can you go into offices and tear them up? Could somebody go through the ceiling? What exactly are you allowed to do and can you do? So I like that he was bringing my thoughts, to words on TV. WWE, I think, thinks they're keeping this secret squirrel to create excitement. The skeptic and the realist in me thinks that they're keeping the rules a secret because they don't know them. They're not sure what they're going to allow and what creatively the wrestlers are actually going to come up with. He starts talking about how, Baron Corbin come out and basically ruined things for Drew Gulak, and he mentions Drew Gulak as his coach. And that irks me every time that he even mentions that he's his coach. I mean, come on. Daniel Bryan is known worldwide as a creative powerhouse that is a technical wrestler and knows his stuff. He is not getting coached by Drew Gulak. So to even pretend that storyline, I think, is offensive to the fans. It's just, not happening. Of course, as soon as he mentions Baron Baron's got to come out. And he is acting his kingly self and talking about how kings treat people of Brian's kind, or his stature, status in life, and all that. My question is when is the new King of the Ring? How long does Baron Corbin get to be King Corbin? When do we crown a new one? And does he have to give that up? Because, I was kind of thinking about that. This has been a good gimmick for him, and I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just wondering, King of the Ring has, on and off, been a yearly thing. We've had a lot of different Kings of the Ring. When do you give this up? Because it usually kind of slowly disappears, and Corbin doesn't seem to be wanting to let it disappear anytime soon. So, I like how Daniel goes right back at him and starts immediately talking about, look, you can talk about being King of the Ring all you want, but when you start bringing up Money in the Bank, that's something different. Because yes, you want it, but you're one of 4 men that ruined it, that tried to cash in and didn't win, the championship. And I love how Daniel Bryan has to throw the dig in there. The whole point of Money in the Bank is that you can cash in anywhere, anytime. So you can do it whenever they're hurt, they're dazed, they're out of it, they're unaware of it. You can catch them totally off guard. You could catch them asleep. You can do it anywhere. And the whole thing is being smart about it, as far as seeing when that champion is, maybe been knocked out by a chair in one of their matches or whatever, and cashing it in. And I think it was good for Daniel Bryan to remind us of that no, you don't cash it in at the biggest moment possible. You don't wait till WrestleMania to do it, or SummerSlam. No, you don't necessarily have to do that. Do a lot of them do? Yes, of course. That's how, Vince McMahon wants it, the most bang for his buck. But think about it. They can be traveling and be in Kalamazoo, Michigan on a Thursday night, and he can cash in. So be smart about it, is what Daniel Bryan basically was thinking or saying. And then, of course, they start the match, and we get to see Daniel Bryan actually being a technical wrestler, targeting the left leg of Corbin. And we get to see Corbin for who he is, because of who he's taken on with Daniel Bryan. We get reminded that, Baron Corbin is a Golden Gloves champion, and we see his striking ability and his power in his punches and everything. And then I got really interested in Corey Graves and Michael Cole, and that's why I brought them up in the beginning. They start talking about who is smarter in the wrestling ring. Is it Daniel Bryan, the technical wrestler, going after a body part and not forgetting that body part and really concentrating on that? Or is it Baron Corbin, who's smarter, who realizes his strength is in his power, is in his striking, is in his background in boxing and everything, and who is actually not only having the smarter match, but basically the smarter run career? Who really is that coming down to? And while they're having this conversation, they get outside the ring, and we see Baron Corbin using the ring post on the outside and throwing Daniel Bryan in there, and then doing a massive clothesline to Daniel Bryan and using his power. And I think having that interaction between Cole and Graves, that's something that I miss. It's something that Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips don't have the comfortability doing, but neither one of them really wants to play the heel announcer and take the devil's advocate's side. Do I think Corey Graves was saying the things that he truly believes? No. He was saying what would make a good conversation, argument, what would get us involved and excited in this match. And then, as they're talking about this and the match is continuing, Corbin loses his cool and basically just ends up throwing a ladder into the ring, which causes Daniel Bryan to reverse and counter on him, and he's trying to get the yes locked in, to try to get it attached and everything, when Shinsuke and Cesaro come in to save him from tapping out. And then Daniel Bryan gets nailed with a ladder by Cesaro. Shinsuke hits him with a running knee, and then Cesaro just takes a ladder to him. And then he's launched off the ramp into a bunch of ladders by Corbin. And that leads me to, where did this come from? I'm a little confused. Yes, Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak were having a program with Shinsuke and Cesaro. I guess I wrongly thought that it was kind of over or settled or whatever at WrestleMania, and that Daniel Bryan is moving maybe into Baron Corbin. But I guess they had to bring Shinsuke and Cesaro back into the picture to keep them involved in something. But then we've got to talk about Sami Zayn. And it's something that I brought up in the News and Updates episode, 2 episodes ago, I guess. Sami Zayn had his wisdom teeth cut out. He was in some pain and decided not to come to the previous week's Smackdown. Well, I brought up then, is he going to travel to this week's show? Well, obviously, no, he didn't. Well, why? Sami Zayn is saying he is now worried about COVID. And I brought that up. He's had wisdom teeth cut out. He has holes in his head. Does he have dry sockets? Will traveling give him dry sockets? But because he has open wounds in his mouth, I would be worried about COVID too. Now, a lot of the rumors and innuendo and dirt sheets and internet sites and, Reddit and all of that are saying that Sami is unhappy and that he's been creating backstage problems and WWE is upset with him. But think about it. He has open sores. You're asking him to travel. You're asking him, and I don't care how many precautions WWE is taking. That's just at the Performance Center. He's still got to live his life. He doesn't live down there. So he's still, got to get a hotel or a place to stay. He's still got to eat. He's got to get groceries delivered or go to the grocery store and get groceries or go get takeout or whatever. He's got to live his life like the rest of us. And he's got open wounds. Does he want to take that chance and up that. So instead of being, at his house where he kind of has the ability to cook, the ability to take care of himself, the ability to rest when he needs to rest and do what he needs to do. So I can kind of see both sides of that. But what it has done has kind of thrown this into a creative nightmare where we now have Shinsuke, Cesaro, and Baron Corbin now ganging up on Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak and a mystery partner next week. So, just interesting things, how real life affects our WWE universe, As they go to commercial, we see Braun interacting with Alexa Bliss. And of course, we are to recall that they were the mixed tag team last year of Big Little. And, we see her giving him a t-shirt and him wiping sweat off and things like that. And they basically say he's coming up next. So after commercial, Braun immediately comes out, and as soon as I see him come out, my first thought is, daggone, Smackdown ratings were down last week. Big time. They're really throwing it all here in the beginning. I mean, they've got Daniel Bryan doing the yes chant, and Corey Graves and them selling everything they got. They've got a run-in. They've got Baron Corbin using ladders and throwing Daniel Bryan into ladders. And then, boom, they're throwing Braun at us. And we know, everybody knows what is coming. We're getting Bray Wyatt. And so I'm just kind of amazed that they didn't say that towards the end of the show. They're throwing it at us to get us, number one, to turn on the channel, but number two, to keep us here. So we see Braun come out, and as he starts to talk about their history being shown last week, and I talked about that in the Raves and Rants episode last week, as far as them showing the history that they have together from 2015 and him being part of the Wyatt family and everything. He's immediately interrupted by Bray Wyatt, Firefly Funhouse music, and what we thought is definitely happening. Bray's coming out and gonna start talking. And I cannot praise Bray's creativeness anymore. The stuff he is coming up with, I don't know who's helping him. I don't know if anybody's helping him. I don't know what is going on. But whoever is greenlighting this and coming up with this, whether it's Bray Wyatt with help or by himself or somebody else is, I don't know. It's unbelievable, because we see Bray Wyatt in the old rocking chair, and he shows us that he's got a book that he wants to read to us, and it's called The Black Sheep, which is what Braun Strowman was in the Wyatt family, was, the Black Sheep. And in case we don't get that reference, as he starts telling the story, he of course has to tell us that the Black Sheep looked a lot like Braun, and that he had a good shepherd that was very smart and good looking and had some sweet muscles, which was of course Bray Wyatt. And he talks about how, the shepherd was out one day and he noticed that the Black Sheep was wandering alone. And the shepherd took him in and raised him. And in turn, the Black Sheep learned to protect his farm. And that was the whole beginning of the Wyatt family. Bray said when he introduced Braun that he found him, and that he had raised him and taught him things and took him in when no one else would. And that was kind of Braun's backstory when he was introduced. And Braun didn't talk much, if you guys remember. He didn't really talk a whole lot until almost he got away from the Wyatt family. So we were left with Bray to kind of tell his story. And that's what he's redoing now and kind of framing it in his own way about how much fun they had together. But then, of course, the story has to take a Bray Wyatt turn, and he immediately says, until the selfish black sheep left in search of greener pastures. Of course, we see Braun immediately shaking his head like, no, that's not what's going on. But we see Bray's reasoning for going after Braun right after this. He talks about him being selfish and him leaving for greener pastures and how he didn't say thank you or goodbye. He didn't even leave a note, and that it made Bray Wyatt sad. And then because Braun left, he showed the other animals how they also could abandon him. And that is true. After, Braun was drafted to a completely different show, Harper and Rowan left Bray Wyatt. Now, of course, Bray can't get at them now because they both went on to greener pastures. Rowan got released and Harper is in AEW now. But he talks about how then the shepherd became alone. And Bray, just thinking about that, we see him get upset and slam the book shut. And he looks at Braun and says, instead, let's come up with a happier ending where the shepherd finds the black sheep and reminds him of all his mistakes and takes away what makes him happy, and then the shepherd's going to take the sheep straight to the slaughterhouse and not deal with him. Well, of course that upsets Braun. Braun's like, no. And he interrupts and says, look, I'm done playing with you, Bray. I'm done with the Firefly Funhouse. If you want to talk to me, then you need to come on out here to this ring. You need to say it to my face. And Bray just waves. Says, bye. Now, of course, later in the show, we find out next week they're going to come face to face. But it's left for us to wonder, is he coming face to face with Bray Wyatt, or is he going to come face to face with Fiend, or both? And exactly how is that going to make Braun feel? Is he going to get under his spell again? Is he going to do what he says? Is it going to scare him? Or is WWE going to allow Braun Strowman to be a strong champion? So, I think that's where we need to stop and take 5-10 minutes and let's me and you talk about what is happening in reality. Let's go out of the WWE universe and let's go into reality. Bray Wyatt started this character of The Fiend and Bray Wyatt. It was the hottest thing WWE had going for them. The audience was getting into it. Everybody was intrigued. And I'm not talking just the WWE audience. Everybody, I think, in the wrestling universe was intrigued with this character that Bray had came up with. I think they were talking about it in AEW. I think they were talking about it in New Japan. I think he had the whole WWE universe, the whole wrestling community, really talking about his creativity and everything. They ended up giving him the belt. At that time, Bray Wyatt was getting his character over, and he was doing things separate from the title. At that time, he didn't need the title. He was, and I hate to compare him to this because so many people do, but he was almost like The Undertaker was, in that his gimmick, his story, him getting people from his past back, him drawing nightmares out from them, like he did The Miz, like he did Daniel Bryan, like he did Kane. It had nothing to do with the title picture. He didn't need to be involved in that. But people were calling for it, and WWE almost couldn't resist it. And so they put the title on him, and then it was almost like they realized our two big characters are not working out the way we want. Vince McMahon has always loved Roman Reigns, his look, his talent, and he has wanted to push him. And it seems like every time Vince tries to push Roman, the WWE universe pushes back and says, no, we don't want that. Bray Wyatt was creating the ultimate heel. The bad guy, the Fiend, the person that you were supposed to be afraid of. However, he got over like The Undertaker did. And it was almost like he was a heel everybody loved to hate, which almost made him a babyface. So what they originally had planned was for Bray Wyatt to go against Roman Reigns in this ultimate clash of babyface Reigns versus heel Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. But they realized in February, if we allow that to happen, with Bray Wyatt basically becoming a babyface and everybody cheering him on and wanting to see him and wanting to find out what he's going to do next and him getting them so excited, they realized that if Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt took each other on in Tampa, that it was going to become an out-of-the-box nightmare. Because Bray Wyatt had the title and they wanted Roman Reigns to win, him be the babyface, him conquer evil. That was going to be the storyline of WrestleMania. And they realized, oh my gosh, if we end with this, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa is going to be torn apart because the fans are going to be so pissed. Because they love the Fiend way more than they love the babyface Reigns. Before COVID come, they make the decision, we're going to take the belt from the Fiend. We want to give it to Roman Reigns. We don't want Roman Reigns getting booed. So who can we come in as a transitional champion, take the belt from the Fiend, and pretty much maybe not get booed? In steps Goldberg. In Saudi Arabia, he shocks the world and takes the belt from the Fiend. because they did not think Goldberg beating The Fiend would hurt The Fiend at all. And it really didn't. So then their plans are teetotally set. Goldberg's going to be the transitional champion. He's fine with signing a short-term contract. And he is going to give the belt to Roman Reigns. And people are not going to cheer that, or they're not going to boo that. They're going to cheer that Roman Reigns finally got the belt back from the part-timer who wasn't planning on staying and could have taken the belt like Brock and not really defended it, and on and on and on. That was their plan. So that's what we were seeing. The problem is COVID came. Miz showed up feeling sick, running a temperature. They didn't know if he had COVID. They sent him home, and Roman Reigns got scared. With his compromised immunity, he was like, I'm out. And so he pulls out basically last minute of WrestleMania. And so a transitional champion planning on giving the belt to Roman Reigns, who was planning on holding it to at least SummerSlam, now is faced with, do you want to stay here? And Goldberg was like, look, I have a short-term contract. No, I'm not wanting to stay here until SummerSlam, especially with this COVID thing going on. I don't want to put my family through that. No. And so there was almost no discussion on Goldberg continuing being a champion instead of that transitional champion. So when they looked around, they decided to choose Braun. Well, is Braun a transitional champion? I guess is my question. You know, we've been talking about this, and I guess that's my question. Is he the next transitional champion? Did he take the belt, the title, from Goldberg at WrestleMania just to give it to The Fiend? Because, think about it. If that's what they're planning, then The Fiend actually never should have lost the belt in February. He could have just had it this whole entire time and played with it, and we wouldn't have had two transitional champions. So that's the dilemma that WWE is in right now. Is, do we give the title back to The Fiend and have had two transitional champions that didn't mean anything, and we're basically admitting we made a mistake taking the belt away from The Fiend in February? Or do you say, no, we're going to run with Braun? Braun is our champion, and we're basically going to keep him until SummerSlam, and maybe he'll go up against Roman Reigns then. Well, okay, let's say that's their solution. Braun defeats The Fiend. Where does that leave The Fiend? Because, think about it. The Fiend had everything going for him. He was over. He was exciting. He was punishing people. He was bringing up their nightmares. He was triggering them in different ways. If you were in the situation, would you be scared of The Fiend if you knew Goldberg beat him? His next match was against John Cena that wasn't a match. They didn't have a match. And I can argue that John Cena didn't lose. And I can argue that The Fiend didn't punish him. And then if you turn around and have Braun beat him, does it ruin The Fiend? Are you scared of The Fiend anymore? Can The Fiend play mind games with you anymore? If you're his next opponent, and you've seen him go up against Goldberg, who's a big guy. You've seen him go up against John Cena, who's a big guy. You've seen him go up against Braun, a big guy. And you're his next opponent and you're a big guy. Are you scared of him? Do you think he can play mind games? Do you think he can play them well enough to beat you? I think my argument there is no. I don't think he beats me. I don't think he plays with me. I'm not scared of him. 3 people in a row have taken it and been fine. So then that goes back to my original question. In order to keep The Fiend, the character that he is, being scary, being able to mess with your mind, being able to conquer things, being able to control things, doesn't he have to win? But if he wins, do you destroy Braun? And that's the whole thing where I feel like WWE has put themselves into a corner. And it's craziness. It is absolutely total craziness. But anyway, after they go into that, we get, Sheamus and Leon Ruff, that was just majorly, it was just a quick squash match, basically, of destruction. And Sheamus comes over and starts again immediately yelling at Michael Cole, are you going to talk about your buddy? Are you going to talk about Jeff Hardy? Are you, going to pump him up? And Cole, being around for 15 years, looks at Sheamus like, dude, I am not worried about you. And says, yeah, we actually are going to talk about Jeff Hardy. And we're going to talk about, showing his last segment of his life and of his career. And it's the comeback. And they talk, about how Jeff Hardy is getting ready to make his comeback. And the changes he's made and all of that. In order to Jeff Hardy's coming back next week. And of course, as soon as they say that, Sheamus says, good. So will I. I'll be here. I'll be here next week. I want to see the great Jeff Hardy. So, they're in the process of putting together, I'm assuming, hoping, a program with Sheamus and Jeff Hardy to kind of get Jeff some wrestling under his belt. And then we get Otis and Mandy. I don't even know what to say about them. I know so many of you out there really like Otis. I don't. Otis is gross to me. I hate seeing his stomach and his belly. I want him to cover that up. They make shirts his size, wear them. You can't tell me that Mandy is not grossed out by him. And you cannot tell me as professional and classy as what Mandy Rose's character portrays herself to be, that she's into a guy that says, oh yeah, 50 billion times. That's ridiculous. That's not who this girl would be with in real life. And so it's hard to sell me on that. If Otis had changed his personality or was a different person, or Mandy had changed her personality and was a different person, then yes, I could see this. But I feel like it is fake. It is a storyline. It's ridiculous. And then, of course, Kayla asks the question that I want asked and talks to her about Sonya Deville. And Mandy says, I really don't want to talk about Sonya. I'm focused on Carmella. And, of course, Otis is doing his "oh yeah" thing 50 billion times. Just ridiculous. So we get to see Carmella come out, and then Mandy, of course, in the Money in the Bank qualifier. So there is something on the line with these guys. This was a pretty good match. I liked some of the offense that Carmella got, but it was mostly Mandy being in control and showing that she has learned and gotten better as a wrestler and is trying to get us more over on her side, and of course has Carmella in a compromising position as far as getting a chin lock on her and getting ready to go into a different mood when we hear Sonya Deville's new music hit and she comes out. Of course, Sonya has just impressed me in the last month. With her acting, with the way she has conducted herself. She cockily and smart aleckly says, hey, don't worry, Mandy, you just keep wrestling. Your best friend here. You don't worry about things. And then she starts talking about how she feels so nostalgic because it was this time last year when, she basically gave Mandy her spot, and how, she kept saying, "You're doing a good job, and I practically handed you the briefcase, but you still lost." And Mandy on that kind of turns around and is like, "What? Shut up." Because Sonya is picking at her weak spots, the spots that she doesn't want to remember and doesn't want to really pay attention to. Well, as soon as she turns around, we knew what was going to happen. Carmella, boom, super kick. And, goes for the win. Of course, right after that, Carmella is like outdone. Sonya attacks Mandy, yelling, "You're never going to be better than me," and runs Mandy into the outside ring post, runs her into the steps, and then gives her a hellacious running knee. And I am finding myself cheering for Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville has been a person that I've kind of been fascinated with since her debut because of her skills, because of her background, even a little bit because of her character. I got more interested when we found out a little more about her as a person in Total Divas, and just kind of wanted her to break out. Really wanted her to break out with Fire and Desire because the tag team division in the women's scene is just garbage. But since they've done this, that's fine. I like heel Sonya Deville. I like this new character that she has created of being bad and punishing people, and I find myself cheering that. Now, then we get the New Day and the Forgotten Sons and Miz and Morrison and commentary. I'm going to be really honest with you. I listened to Miz and Morrison. I did not care about this match. I didn't really watch it. I hate both teams. New Day gets on my nerves. I hate their pancakes. I hate them acting stupid. I wish they would go back to their original gimmick. I can't stand it. They have just jumped the shark with me and the pancakes and the unicorns and the cereal and all. I know that people get into that. I know kids get into that. I don't like them. Forgotten Sons, I don't like them. I don't like their look. They need to cut their hair and shave their beards. They're not veterans. When you look into their background in reality, the three of them are not veterans. I understand that they're standing for veterans. I can't get into it. It irritates me. I didn't really watch this. I'm just going to be real honest with you. The Forgotten Sons won. I don't care. Then we see Sasha talking to Tamina, like they're buddies. How they came in together and they were kind of tight and everything. But this is just basically so Bayley can attack her from behind. But Tamina kind of feels it, and even though they end up throwing her into some equipment that are backstage, you could tell that Tamina kind of knew it was happening, and they go to try to beat her up, and Tamina is trying to fight them off. Well, out of the blue, boom, here comes Lacey Evans. And she is laying it on them, and the refs and backstage personnel come and basically break that up. So we're going to be seeing that next week as far as being a tag team match and then going up against each other in the Go Home show. Then they flash to Dolph and Sonya Deville talking. And Sonya is basically pumping Dolph up and telling him, I really hurt Mandy. I really punished her. And now you need to do the same to Otis. We've really got to get on this, type thing. And I felt that. I felt like Sonya Deville was being real with that. And even though I know she's not, I thought it was a good job. And then, of course, we get Otis versus Dolph Ziggler for the Money in the Bank qualifier. And my first comment was, where is Tucker? Where is Tucker? Where is Heavy Machinery? Because I don't know if you guys watched the show or whether you turned it off, since this is the main event and it's almost over. Some of you may have turned it off. But Otis came out to Heavy Machinery's graphics, song, everything. Where's Tucker? Has Otis totally kicked Tucker to the side because of Mandy? Did he call Tucker and Tucker is with Mandy because she's hurting in medical? Where is Tucker? They're not answering that. And that gets on my nerves. They're supposed to be a tag team. They're supposed to be best friends. They're supposed to be in it to win it together. So where's Tucker? And so soon as this match starts, very, very, very obvious that they're going to put Otis over Dolph Ziggler because he's got the pop, he's got the heat. They want him in the Money in the Bank to get eyes on this whole Otis and Mandy. They're running with the story, and Dolph is not going to do that. Now, in reality, I hate that for Dolph. He's the better wrestler. He is coming probably to the end of his career, and I kind of wanted to see him get one more shot, one more run. Obviously that's not going to happen unless he shows up at headquarters and maybe he comes out of one of the offices and gets Otis. I don't know, but real disappointed with this main event match just because Dolph is an amateur wrestler, technical wrestler. He can wrestle circles around Otis. Otis's gimmick of doing the caterpillar worm, whatever you call it, and then hitting somebody like that's stupid. In real life, Dolph would get up and just super kick him to death, and that would be the end of it. So just really disappointed that they didn't go with Dolph on this one. Understand why as far as they went with Otis and everything. Overall, it was a filler show. I'm hoping the Go Home show next week will be better. Not too sure about it. I just don't think the ratings are there for this show. They didn't give us anything. None of the big guys were there other than Braun and The Fiend. Yes, the big story was there as far as Otis and Mandy and Sonya and Dolph, but just not a lot of substance, not a lot of movement in storylines. Didn't even move the Sheamus and Jeff Hardy storyline. It was a filler show. And I feel like we're getting more and more and more of these from WWE as they go. And like I said last week, WWE creative has to step up. That's all there is to it. They have to step up. Just really, really getting disappointed in them. So, I mean, I'm to the point where I'm struggling with where they should go, what they should do. So you guys have got to give me some feedback on where you think WWE needs to go. What do you think about this transitional championship that I talked about? What do you think about Daniel Bryan's career? Are you thinking he's going to retire? Are you thinking he's leaving and going to somewhere else? You think he's going to stick it out and get a Brock Lesnar contract? What do you guys think? You guys got to let me know. Hit me up on Twitter or on Facebook on Wrestling Overtime, or write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com, because I really feel like they're at a crossroads and we really don't know where they're going to go and what they're going to do. So you guys kind of let me know and figure out what we're doing and how we're doing things. Hit me up, because so confused. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you guys soon, because our next episode is going to be episode number 100. And I'm pretty excited about it. So I am definitely going to be talking to you guys soon. Thank you guys for listening, and see ya.